Marine biologist Dr. Sarah Chen arrived at work to find chaos: every tank door open, security systems completely disabled, and not a single animal left in the building. The police called it impossible, but the security footage revealed something that challenged everything they believed about intelligence and compassion. An octopus had orchestrated the greatest animal liberation in history. The morning fog still clung to the shores of Monterey Bay as Dr. Sarah Chen pulled into the employee parking lot of the Pacific Marine Aquarium. At 34, she had dedicated her life to marine biology, spending the last 8 years studying cephalopod intelligence at one of California's most prestigious research facilities. The aquarium was her second home, a place where she conducted groundbreaking research on octopus cognition and problem-solving abilities. As she approached the main entrance, Sarah immediately noticed something wrong. The security lights that should have automatically dimmed at sunrise were still flashing in an erratic pattern, and the electronic turnstiles at the visitor entrance were cycling open and closed repeatedly, as if stuck in some kind of loop. "That's strange," she muttered, using her key card to access the staff entrance. But when she swiped the card, the reader displayed an error message she had never seen before. "System override active, unauthorized access protocol engaged." The first sign of real trouble came when Sarah entered the main corridor. The emergency lighting was activated throughout the building, casting an eerie red glow over everything. But more disturbing than the lighting was the sound, or rather, the absence of sound. The aquarium should have been filled with the gentle hum of filtration systems, the bubbling of aerators, and the subtle sounds of marine life. Instead, there was an unsettling silence that made Sarah's skin crawl. Sarah quickened her pace toward the cephalopod research wing, where she conducted most of her work. As she rounded the corner into the main exhibition hall, she stopped dead in her tracks. Every single tank door and access panel was wide open. The massive Pacific Giant Octopus habitat, a 300-gallon custom tank that housed Inky, the star of her research, was completely empty. "No, no, no," Sarah whispered, rushing to Inky's tank. The sophisticated locking mechanism, which required both a keycard and a biometric scan to open, was not just unlocked, it had been completely disassembled. Small components of the electronic lock lay scattered around the base of the tank, as if they had been methodically taken apart by someone who understood exactly how they functioned. Sarah pulled out her phone with trembling hands and dialed the aquarium's security office. The call went directly to voicemail. She tried the main reception desk, then the facilities manager, then the director, all voicemail. Growing more frantic by the moment, she dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? This is Dr. Sarah Chen at the Pacific Marine Aquarium. We've had a break-in. All of our animals are missing, and our security systems appear to have been compromised. Within 20 minutes, the aquarium was swarming with police officers, detectives, and FBI agents. The lead detective, a weathered man named Robert Martinez, who had been investigating unusual crimes for over 2 decades, took Sarah's statement while crime scene technicians began documenting the scene. "So you're telling me that someone broke into an aquarium, disabled all the security systems, and stole fish?" Detective Martinez asked, struggling to hide his skepticism. "Not just fish," Sarah corrected. "We're talking about dozens of marine animals, including several species that require very specific environmental conditions to survive. Whoever did this would have needed extensive knowledge of marine biology, sophisticated equipment for transport, and somehow they managed to keep the animals alive during the theft." Detective Martinez nodded, though Sarah could see he was having trouble understanding the scope of what had occurred. "Any idea who might want to steal these animals? Black market dealers? Competing aquariums?" Sarah shook her head. "Detective, you don't understand. Some of these animals are priceless research subjects. Inky alone, our Pacific Giant Octopus, represents years of behavioral research. He's not valuable to collectors. He's valuable to science." As they spoke, Officer Jennifer Walsh approached with a tablet in her hands. "Detective, you need to see this. We've reviewed the security footage, and, well, it's not what we expected." The group gathered around Officer Walsh's tablet as she queued up the security footage from the previous night. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. when the first anomaly appeared. One of the hallway cameras suddenly panned to focus on a ventilation grate near the ceiling. "That's weird," Detective Martinez observed. "Why would the camera move on its own?" "It gets weirder," Officer Walsh replied, fast-forwarding the footage. "Watch this." At 12:23 a.m., the camera captured something that made everyone present question what they were seeing. A large reddish-brown shape squeezed out of the ventilation, grate and dropped silently to the floor. As the shape oriented itself, it became unmistakably clear what they were looking at: a massive octopus, easily 6 feet across when its arms were extended. "That's Inky," Sarah whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "But how did he get into the ventilation system? His tank is completely sealed." Officer Walsh continued the footage. "It gets more impressive. Watch what he does next." Inky moved across the floor with fluid grace, but his destination was puzzling. He headed directly to a wall-mounted electrical panel that controlled the building's security cameras. Using 2 of his arms to brace himself against the wall, Inky used his other 6 arms to manipulate the panel's controls with astonishing precision. "He's turning off cameras," Detective Martinez said, his voice filled with amazement. "Look at the sequence he's creating. Blind spots in the security coverage." Sarah was studying Inky's movements with the trained eye of someone who had spent years observing octopus behavior. "This isn't random," she said slowly. "He's following a plan. Look at how efficiently he's moving, how he seems to know exactly which controls to manipulate. He's been studying our security system." The footage continued to reveal Inky's sophisticated operation. Over the course of 3 hours, the octopus methodically moved through the aquarium, using a combination of technical manipulation and physical problem-solving to open tank after tank. His methods varied depending on the security system. Some he opened by manipulating electronic controls, others by solving mechanical puzzles, and a few by simply applying his considerable strength in precisely the right locations. But most remarkable was Inky's apparent concern for the welfare of the other animals. The footage showed him carefully herding smaller creatures toward what appeared to be makeshift transport containers, using his arms to create gentle currents that guided fish and other marine life without causing them stress. "He's not just escaping," Sarah realized, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. "He's conducting a rescue operation." Detective Martinez paused the footage and looked at Sarah seriously. "Dr. Chen, I need you to help me understand something. You're the expert here. Is what we're seeing actually possible? Can an octopus really plan and execute something this sophisticated?" Sarah took a deep breath before answering. "Detective, octopuses are among the most intelligent invertebrates on Earth. They can solve complex puzzles, use tools, and demonstrate problem-solving abilities that rival some vertebrates. But what we're seeing here, this level of planning, this understanding of human technology, it's beyond anything I've documented in my research." As the investigation continued, more details emerged about Inky's remarkable escape and rescue operation. Building schematics revealed that he had somehow gained access to the ventilation system through a maintenance hatch in his tank, a hatch that should have been impossible for him to open without opposable thumbs. Dr. Michael Torres, the aquarium's head of facilities, examined the hatch and discovered that it had been opened using a method that demonstrated profound understanding of mechanical engineering. Someone or something figured out that by applying pressure to these 3 specific points simultaneously, the safety mechanism would release, he explained to the investigative team. The mystery deepened when investigators discovered that Inky had somehow gained access to the aquarium's computer network. Digital forensics expert Agent Lisa Park found evidence that the security system hadn't simply been disabled, it had been reprogrammed. The access logs show that someone with advanced knowledge of our security protocols logged into the system at 1:34 a.m., Agent Park explained. "They didn't just turn off cameras, they created false loop recordings to hide their activities, modified the environmental controls to maintain optimal conditions for animal transport, and even programmed the facility's loading dock doors to open automatically." "But how?" Detective Martinez asked. "The computer terminals require passwords, biometric scans." Agent Park pulled up security footage from the main office. "This is how." The footage showed Inky positioned in front of a computer terminal, his arms moving in complex patterns across the keyboard and touch screen. But most remarkably, one of his arms was pressed against the biometric scanner, while another held what appeared to be a small piece of plastic against the card reader. "He's using Dr. Chen's access card," Agent Park observed, "and somehow he's replicating her fingerprint." Sarah stared at the footage in amazement. "I left my lab coat hanging in the research area yesterday. My access card was in the pocket, and I had been handling specimens, so my fingerprints would have been on various surfaces." You're suggesting that an octopus learned to forge fingerprints and memorize computer passwords? Detective Martinez asked incredulously. I'm suggesting that we've severely underestimated cephalopod intelligence, Sarah replied. Octopuses have been observed using tools, solving multi-step puzzles, and demonstrating what can only be described as planning behavior. Inky has been watching our routines for months, possibly years. He's learned our patterns, our technology, our procedures. The investigation took another unexpected turn when marine rescue organizations throughout California began reporting unusual deliveries. The Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary received a call at 6:15 a.m. about dozens of marine animals that had somehow appeared in their rehabilitation pools overnight. Similar reports came from facilities in San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and San Diego. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, director of the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary, described the discovery to investigators. We arrived to find our rehabilitation pools full of marine life that clearly didn't belong there naturally. But they weren't randomly dumped. Every animal was placed in appropriate habitat conditions, with proper water temperature, salinity, and pH levels. Whoever did this understood marine biology better than most professionals. The animals that appeared at various facilities were all species that had been housed at the Pacific Marine Aquarium, but they showed no signs of stress or injury from their transport. Veterinary examinations revealed that they had been moved with extraordinary care, using methods that minimized trauma and maintained optimal health conditions. Most puzzling was the discovery that several of the delivered animals were species that the Pacific Marine Aquarium had been planning to release back into the wild as part of their rehabilitation program. Somehow, Inky had identified which animals were suitable for release and had transported them to appropriate facilities. It's as if he understood our research goals better than we thought possible, Sarah mused as she reviewed the list of transported animals. These were all specimens that we had been preparing for eventual release. But how could he have known that? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. James Liu, a specialist in animal cognition, had been studying the intelligence of cephalopods for over a decade. When he learned about Inky's operation, he offered a theory that challenged conventional understanding of animal consciousness. Octopuses have been observed demonstrating what we call theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings have thoughts, intentions, and feelings different from their own, Dr. Liu explained to the investigation team. What Inky accomplished suggests something far more sophisticated. He not only understood that the other animals were suffering in captivity, but he also understood human intentions and goals well enough to identify which animals belonged in rehabilitation programs. As the investigation continued, more evidence emerged of Inky's remarkable intelligence and planning abilities. Analysis of the ventilation system revealed that he had been using the ductwork to move throughout the facility for weeks, possibly months, learning the layout and observing human activities. Microscopic analysis of the air ducts found traces of octopus mucus at strategic locations, suggesting that Inky had been conducting reconnaissance missions to study the aquarium's operations. He had mapped the facility, learned the schedules of staff members, and identified vulnerabilities in the security system. The technical aspects of Inky's operation continued to baffle investigators. Computer forensics revealed that he had somehow accessed not just the aquarium's internal systems, but had also connected to external networks to research marine sanctuaries and rehabilitation facilities. The browsing history shows searches for marine rescue organizations, transport protocols for live animals, and even weather conditions along the California coast, Agent Park reported. It's as if he was planning the optimal conditions for transporting the animals to safety. Detective Martinez shook his head in amazement. We're talking about an octopus that conducted internet research? The evidence was undeniable, despite its seeming impossibility. Inky had not only escaped from captivity, but had executed a complex rescue operation that demonstrated planning, empathy, technological sophistication, and moral reasoning that challenged fundamental assumptions about animal intelligence. Dr. Chen found herself at the center of a scientific controversy that would reshape understanding of cephalopod cognition. For years, we've been studying Inky's intelligence in controlled laboratory conditions, she explained to a gathering of marine biologists and cognitive scientists. But we were always the ones designing the tests, setting the parameters. What we failed to realize is that Inky was studying us just as intently as we were studying him. The media attention surrounding the case was unprecedented. News outlets around the world covered the story of the octopus that had orchestrated an animal liberation movement, but for the scientific community, the implications were far more profound than the sensational headlines suggested. Dr. Liu organized a symposium to discuss the cognitive implications of Inky's actions. What we're seeing here challenges our fundamental understanding of consciousness, planning, and moral reasoning in non-human species, he told the assembled researchers. Inky didn't just escape, he demonstrated empathy for other captive animals, understanding of human technology, and the ability to execute a complex plan that required multiple types of intelligence working in coordination. The symposium brought together experts in animal cognition, computer science, and philosophy to grapple with questions that had never before been seriously considered. If an octopus could demonstrate this level of sophisticated reasoning, what did that mean for how humans should treat other intelligent species? 3 weeks after the escape, investigators received the final piece of the puzzle. A marine research vessel operating in Monterey Bay reported an unusual sighting, a large Pacific Giant Octopus that appeared to be thriving in the wild, demonstrating hunting and social behaviors that suggested successful adaptation to its natural environment. Dr. Chen joined the research expedition to confirm the sighting. When they found Inky, he was not alone. The octopus had apparently joined a small community of wild octopuses and was displaying complex social behaviors that had never been documented in captive specimens. He's not just surviving in the wild, Dr. Chen reported via radio. He's thriving, and based on his behavior patterns, it appears he's sharing knowledge with the other octopuses. We're observing problem-solving techniques and tool use that these wild specimens have never exhibited before. The discovery raised even more profound questions about cephalopod intelligence and social learning. Had Inky not only escaped captivity, but had also become a teacher, sharing the knowledge he had gained from observing human technology and behavior? The Pacific Marine Aquarium faced a difficult decision about how to proceed with their research programs. The escape had exposed serious questions about the ethics of keeping such intelligent creatures in captivity, regardless of the scientific value of the research. Dr. Chen found herself advocating for a complete restructuring of how the aquarium approached cephalopod research. We can no longer pretend that we're studying simple animals, she argued at a board meeting. Inky has demonstrated that octopuses possess cognitive abilities that we're only beginning to understand. Our research methods need to account for their intelligence, their emotional needs, and their capacity for suffering. The aftermath of Inky's escape led to significant changes in marine research protocols throughout the scientific community. New guidelines were established for housing intelligent marine species, emphasizing environmental enrichment, social interaction opportunities, and regular assessment of animal welfare. But perhaps the most significant impact was on public perception of animal intelligence. Inky's story sparked a global conversation about consciousness, cognition, and the rights of intelligent non-human species. Detective Martinez, who had initially approached the case as a simple theft investigation, found himself fundamentally changed by the experience. "I've been a cop for 22 years, he told a reporter. "I thought I'd seen everything, but this case taught me that intelligence and consciousness come in forms we never expected." Inky wasn't just an animal that escaped, he was a being who recognized injustice and took action to correct it. Dr. Chen continued her research, but with a new appreciation for the subjects of her studies. She developed new protocols that treated cephalopods as research partners rather than subjects, creating environments that allowed them to demonstrate their natural intelligence while contributing to scientific understanding. The story of Inky's Great Escape became a landmark case in the study of animal cognition, cited in research papers, legal decisions about animal welfare, and philosophical discussions about consciousness and intelligence. But for those who witnessed the aftermath firsthand, it was more than an academic exercise. It was proof that intelligence, compassion, and moral reasoning are not uniquely human traits. 6 months after the escape, Dr. Chen received a letter from a marine biology student who had been inspired by Inky's story to pursue a career in cephalopod research. Inky showed us that we're not alone in our capacity for reasoning, planning, and caring about others, the student wrote. If we can learn to recognize and respect that intelligence in other species, maybe we can build a world where humans and animals can coexist with mutual understanding and respect. Today, the Pacific Marine Aquarium operates with new protocols that prioritize animal welfare and acknowledge the cognitive abilities of their residents. The facility has become a model for ethical research practices and continues to advance understanding of marine intelligence, and somewhere in the depths of Monterey Bay, Inky continues his life and freedom, having not only liberated himself and dozens of other creatures but having also liberated human thinking about the nature of intelligence and consciousness. His legacy serves as a reminder that true intelligence is measured not just by problem-solving ability, but by the capacity to recognize suffering and take action to alleviate it. Inky's story proves that heroism, intelligence, and compassion exist throughout the natural world, often in forms we least expect to find them. Sometimes the greatest teachers are those who show us that the boundaries between human and non-human intelligence are far more permeable than we ever imagined.